All right. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of PEPTalk Podcast, Productive Environment Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about how to fall back to focus. Sometimes moving forward begins with slowing down. So when we say fall back to focus, I am referring to the season of fall. And I told Barbara I have props. She actually gave me this beautiful handmade scarf for my birthday, which was Sunday. So that's why fall is one of my absolute favorite times of year. And so I am excited about this topic. I don't know about you guys or your seasons. Do you guys have a season that is your favorite season? You can pop it into the comments wherever you're joining us from. But yeah, today we're going to talk about fall back to focus. So I am Andrea Anderson, CEO of Productive Environment Institute, and I live in Carolina Beach, North Carolina, about 2 hours from
Barbara Hemphill, founder of Productive Environment Institute in Raleigh, North Carolina. And you ask about your favorite season. Mm-hmm. Now it's fall, but I used to hate fall because when I lived in Nebraska, fall meant that winter was coming, and I didn't like winter. But since I've moved to North Carolina, I love it.
See, fall is nice in North Carolina. Yeah. It's a little shocker, though, because we do have hotter summers here, obviously, than Nebraska, I think.
No, not really. No. We have all the same. Nebraska and North Carolina have the same seasons, but they're all more extreme. The hot is hotter and the cold is colder.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. So when fall was became my favorite season, I lived in Ohio. So we had the snow and the cold and the season changes. But there was something about, I always wanted to be a teacher. Like as far back as I can remember, I want to be a teacher. And so October specifically is the best month in the entire year because for me, growing up as a child, that was my birthday month. So the whole month was my birthday. And it also meant, because I wanted to be a teacher, it also meant back to school. We had just gone back to school in September. Nowadays, I think they go back in August, right? Yeah. But back then it for us in Ohio, it was September. So I just always loved this season between, I guess, summer and then before the holidays, before the big holidays came. It was like, this was just a really nice time. And I like the time change. I know a lot of people don't like the time change, and sometimes I don't like it, but I like change. So, it was time to change the clocks back. So that meant something neat and somewhat exciting, So I don't know. That may be why I like fall. So, but speaking of turning the clocks back, you guys know that is coming up this weekend. In fact, this is not in my agenda or our outline for today's talk, but I want to just share that since I was born, I don't know if you know this, Barbara, since I was born on October 26, 1969, it was the weekend of the time change. So my mom, who was a college math teacher, Mom, I'm going to put you on, see if I get the story right. So I was born at 11:08 p.m. And so she always said that if I had been born 24 hours earlier, I would have still had the same birthday. Right? Is that right, Mom?
That's right.
So that was always my claim to fame. All right. Yeah. And she taught math. So she always was doing math problems with people's stuff, with our birthdays and things we did. So anyway, I thought that was neat. So, at this time of year, we're going to change our clocks back and then just think about nature and the seasons as we were just talking about fall. Sometimes, leaves fall, right? Leaves are, if we equate that to organizing and productivity, the trees are they're letting go of something for new growth. And so if we kind of put that into what we do, there's some great analogies with what we do here. So, and with productivity, oftentimes we think, productivity means pushing harder, and you might be thinking about the end of the year. Oh, I got to get so much done. I didn't accomplish all my goals for this year yet. And the year's almost over and you start pushing harder. But sometimes moving forward begins with slowing down. And for me, again, I like this time of year because it is a kind of a tweener. It's between the busyness of summer and, new school starting, and then before the busyness of the holidays, which I want to talk about the busyness of the holidays in a little bit as well. But anyway, so this week we're talking about what it means to fall back to focus by not by doing more, but by doing what matters most. And so again, let's connect between the season and the soul. Fall invites us to pause. I think that is the word, really, to me, that it's a pause. Fall invites us to pause, release, and realign. That's what this time of year means to me. So Barbara, let me ask you this. When you think about slowing down, do you ever think about slowing down? Anyway, when you think about slowing down as a form of progress, what comes to mind for you?
Well, it's interesting that when you presented the idea of talking about that topic, because there's a very, very specific way I'm trying to slow down now. And it has to do with moving slower in the activities that I'm doing. I have a tendency to be frenetic, to go quickly, to wash the dishes quickly, to walk from one room to serve things here, just like this kind of this. And so I have been making a concerted effort to breathe more often, before I do something, breathe more often, to slow down. And one of the ways I'm doing that is by putting on music when I'm doing things, because that tends to slow, especially. And I'm talking now more about household kinds of things as opposed to work. Well, to work extent to some, but I think I'm better at pacing with work things than I am with laundry and cooking and errands and all that kind of stuff, because I just want to hurry up and get it over because I don't want to do it. And then I get this frenetic way. So that's the way I'm trying to just slow my movements down.
I like that. That just reminds me of Ned Hollowell, Dr. Hollowell, who wrote Driven to Distraction and Crazy Busy. And one of the things he used to say was, for us to remember, was R2R, refuse to rush.
Oh, well, I need to that. I'd forgotten that he said that, but that's exactly what I'm making an effort to do.
Yep. I love it. I love it. So let's talk briefly again. I mentioned a couple of these, but I'm going to mention them again because we have some new joiners. But so the meaning behind fall back to focus. Okay. So nature models wisdom for us. As I just mentioned, trees let go of what's no longer serving them, right? It's time. It's cyclical. It's letting go of the leaves. So if we don't make space by releasing things on our calendar, maybe even conversations with people, if we don't make space by releasing, there's no room for new growth later. So if we follow, Barbara, you grew up on a farm in Nebraska. So you guys had, this, and there's the law of sowing and reaping. You had the planting season and the harvest season. It's the same thing with us. We can't be full bore productive all the time and focusing on productivity all the time. There's ebbs and flows for everything. And so slowing down helps us see what's truly essential. So I like that, Barbara, that you're making an effort to slow down, refuse to rush, so that you can be more intentional. We love the word intentional.
Absolutely. One of my favorite words.
Yeah. Yes. And if you caught our podcast last week, there was a quote by Lin Yutang. And part of that quote was, the wisdom of life consists in the elimination of non-essentials. And pausing, slowing down, helps us identify what those non-essentials are so that we can eliminate them. We have in our SOAR program, our SOAR to Success program, we have some of the best clients in the world. And one of their main challenges is their to-do list or their inbox, their list of things, things to do, ideas, all kinds of stuff is so long for some of them. It's so long. They put everything on there because we tell them to get everything out of your brain and get it in there. We call it a capture quest. Capture all the ideas.
When we first started doing Capture Quest, I remember one client saying, "My problem is I love too many things and too many people."
Yeah. Exactly. And I think it's okay to love too many things and too many people, but we still have to, if we want to make an impact on any of them, we have to learn how to, peel back the non-essentials. I always say in class, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something, or it doesn't mean, is it worthy of being on your list? Now, I do say put it on your list anyway. If it comes to your head, it goes in the inbox on what we call the SOAR board. Then you decide, is it worthy of being in your calendar and in your date list?
And if it's not, but you want to keep it because of our system, you can do that as well. It's
That's
also
right.
The saying we say often is that you have to give up good to get best.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So yeah, we have a place to put things that you're like, okay, this is a good idea and I want to do it, or this is a neat article and I want to keep it, or this is a good whatever and I want to do it eventually. Then we create a little place for it. It can be your perhaps folder, or maybe someday maybe, or in the future, a future folder, something like that. That you just pop it in there and it gets it out of the clutter. It doesn't end up in your cluttering up your to-do list and you skipping it because it really isn't that high of a priority yet. Go ahead and park it. I guess that would be another use for the parking lot, right? That people use in workshops. Put it in the parking lot. I like that. So with that philosophy, focus and peace emerge when we let go of postponed decisions. So make a decision. Making a decision to put it in a future potential someday maybe folder is a decision. Okay. And if you at some point it's been on your list so long and you're like, I am never going to do this, and this is not even as important as I thought it was, then go ahead and toss it. Get it out of there. So Barbara, as we all know, you've said many, many times that clutter is postponed decisions. Let me say that slower in case anybody's new. Barbara's famous quote is, clutter is postponed decisions. So how does that principle help people embrace slowing down instead of pushing through?
Well, I hadn't thought about it for a long time, but one of my very first clients was a hoarder. That's not something I did very long. I learned very quickly that wasn't where I wanted to be, but I did have a client who was a hoarder. She's a brilliant person, just an amazing woman. I loved her dearly, very talented, very smart. She was a race car driver. She was a computer user. She was a quilter. And she had a hook on one hand. It was back before the days that you had artificial hands. So she was amazing. But she had, when she called me to her house, it was just full of stuff. I remember counting 125 shopping bags, I think. But then, and I quit at that point, I quit counting. But then there were empty jars. And so we came up with, okay, how much of my life am I willing to take up with empty jars? So it was measuring how much you were willing to keep. But the other thing is, one of our things we talk about all the time with paper, especially, is what we call the art of wastebasketry, which is what's the worst possible thing that would happen if you shredded this or recycled it, or with email, if you deleted it. Well, the same can be said about things to do or keep. What's the worst thing that would happen if I didn't do it? And we go through seasons in our lives of where we keep different things depending on what I am going through, a season of letting go in a really, really big way. So we just renovated our house. And as a result, I had to take everything off the walls and out of the garage and all that kind of stuff. So it really gave me an opportunity to be intentional. And my original idea was to put everything back in again because I liked it. There wasn't anything I didn't like because it was an intentional environment. But then I realized that there wasn't any space for anything new to come in. So I changed. So we go through seasons in our life, and if you have young children, that's one season. If you're caring for elderly parents, that's another season. And so you want to match it. And that's why we continually say this is the art of organizing.
Mm-hmm. Amen. So what are some of let's talk about some of the common challenges of this time of year. This actually reminded me of a memory I'll share with you guys in a minute. One of them is the end of year urgency trap. Okay. So we want to finish strong, but we end up exhausted. And one of the things just happened around the holiday. We're not talking necessarily about the holidays today in general, or specifically, but Thanksgiving, Christmas, things start getting really busy, right? And I remember being really festive and being really in the spirit of Christmas and going to visit some family and, packed up everything, packed up gifts, and, we're going to have a family dinner, a holiday Christmas family dinner. And got there. We were just excited to be there. It's like, oh, this is going to be so fun. It's holidays. We're going to be with our family. And then as soon as I opened the door, we're like, hey, Merry Christmas. And the person said, oh, I'll be so glad when this is all over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it just totally took us from the high of, being excited and being around family and enjoying meals together to, oh, okay. So, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, I think this brings up the idea that the fall back is to pull back now. You mentioned it earlier, and I think that's really true, to prepare for that busy season. Because your story reminds me of something that I notice a lot when people are doing events and things, whether they're entertaining or whatever else. How much I enjoy it is directly related to how much the host enjoys it.
Yeah.
And if the host is feeling all rushed and frantic, and I used to be terrible about that because I wanted everything to be perfect and I didn't want any help because I didn't want people wouldn't do it as good as I, wouldn't be perfect, sort of thing. And I realized that I was ruining everything. I mean, I literally was. I was ruining things because I wasn't relaxed. And now when I go somewhere, sometimes I have been known to go up to the host and literally just say, you look like you need a hug, and just give them a big hug and make them take a deep breath and slow down. So that's a way I think that fall back applies before we get to the holiday season.
That's right. Yeah. Be intentional about stepping back and not getting into that. You mentioned it earlier, frenetic, frantic, and our homes, our inboxes, our to-do lists, they all reflect that pace. If we start, thinking I have so much to do, and start putting that on our to-do list, and things are piling up around, and then that just adds to it. That just adds to the stress and anxiety of the period. So, and you might be listening going, how I can't slow down. You're talking about slow down. You don't know how much I have to do. You don't know how much I've got on my plate, So, I just want to point out that slowing down doesn't mean giving up momentum. Okay. It means regaining control. So in your example, Barbara, you might have thought that with, your frantic pace, and you realized, okay, I'm going to pull back. You might think you were giving up momentum and things were going to fall through the cracks. But apparently you have realized that it means regaining control, when you can just take a breath. I don't have to rush through this, refuse to rush, and pace yourself. So that's another thing I think all of us this over the next 3 months, 2 months now, 2 months left of this year, is pace yourself. Okay. And then ask yourself, am I busy or am I focused? So if you're running around like a chicken with his head chopped off, and if you've never seen that in real life, oh my goodness, it's a real thing.
We both grew up on farms. We both.
That's right.
I can remember my grandmother doing it on a big stump.
Yep. And I was traumatized for life. My stepbrother did it. He was like, watch this. And he chopped it off, and that chicken ran around. I was like, oh my God. Anyway, so if we find ourselves running around like that, then we're probably just busy and not really focused on what we're doing. And that's when mistakes happen. That's when accidents happen. We drop something. We might trip and fall because we're rushing through something. Or in your work, you might make errors on something you're working on because you're rushing. So, we talk about, we've joked about taking naps a lot. I love taking a nap. We consider naps productive. So rest is productive. Let's talk about rest for a minute. Rest is productive when it's intentional. So with this season of trying to fall back to focus, not rushing into everything, be intentional about getting some rest. Are you getting sleep? I have been tracking, Barbara, I got a little Apple Watch.
Oh,
about a month now, and I'm tracking my sleep. And then I screenshot the results and I plug it into ChatGPT and I say, analyze this. And it's giving me all kinds of things to be doing because I've been waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning a lot. And so I'm trying to figure out why, and if I need to adjust my bed, go to bed time or my get up time or whatever. So I'm working on that. So I'm being very intentional about it. And I am not afraid to take a nap. If I'm working and I start getting sleepy, I will take a nap, but that's built into my new sleep plan. I've got an app that actually includes the naps too. So I'm being very intentional about the rest. And I know, Barbara, that was something that you worked on personally in the past, was your sleep. Because I don't think anybody realizes, maybe not anybody, I don't think a lot of people realize how critical sleep is to everything else that we do. I would argue that our sleep is more important than our diet and our exercise even. And everybody's always talking about diet and exercise, but they're not talking about sleep. Our sleep is when the recovery happens and everything that goes on in our system happens. So you want to respond?
Well, if you talk about that from a physiological standpoint, research shows that when you are sleeping is actually when the clutter is being cleared from the brain, literally. Yes. And all the research shows that lack of sleep causes symptoms worse than being drunk, having alcohol, too much alcohol. So, and you mentioned that nap. I actually found an app that I just started using that has a 15-minute nap where it has specific music and it plays a tone at the end so that you can know that you're going to wake up. Because a lot of people are afraid to take a nap. And it's just a tool. I don't know that I'll use it forever, but I've been using it recently and really loving it. And interesting you say that you've been waking up at 3 o'clock. I've been waking up at 3 o'clock for quite a long time. And I often wake up and I get up and do things and do different things. Sometimes I go to YouTube, find a video. Sometimes I come to my office and work. Sometimes I do things in the kitchen. And then I go back to bed again, or I take a nap again. And there's also lots of research from a spiritual standpoint that 3 a.m. is a time when God really speaks. It's quieter and you can really hear more. So I quit worrying about it. I just figure I'm up for a reason, and then you make up for it by taking a nap or going back in again. So interesting that we haven't discussed that, but that's interesting. Both of us. Yeah.
And it is interesting because, ChatGPT's advice, though, for me, because it's tracking like all the times and everything, its advice to me is if you wake up at 3 a.m., don't get up.
Yeah.
Don't get up.
Yeah. And I think that's everybody's different.
Everyone's different. Yep.
Everybody's different. I used to try to do that. And then I realized I found actually a prayer app. There's a whole series of them. And if you wake up at 3 o'clock, this is a prayer to play, and it has music and whatever else. So I started by just doing that and then I'd go back to sleep again. My patterns are very uneven, but I feel better physically, emotionally than I have ever. So I think I found what works for me, at least in this season. It may not always be this way, but for right now, as the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
that's right. I love that.
Now it's working.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Barbara, when clients feel like they can't slow down, that everything's urgent, we talk about this a lot too. If everything's urgent, nothing's urgent. If everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. But when clients feel like they can't slow down, that everything's urgent, what's one small mindset shift that can help them pause without guilt?
Well, one of my favorite verses in the Bible, it says, there is therefore now no condemnation in those who love Jesus Christ and are called according to his word. And I believe that's true. I think, and I just a few weeks ago was in Texas for a 3-day seminar with Melvin Pillay, which was just phenomenal. And it was called The Kingdom of God. And he talked about how you can bring, in the Lord's Prayer, it talks about bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth. And he talks about the way we do that is when we feel God in our hearts, when we go someplace or do something, we literally are bringing God into the room. When we walk into the room, that it's like we're bringing God's presence into the room. And he talked about the crown of righteousness. And so we literally are wearing a crown, which other people see. And I had somebody explain to me the other day that she met me somewhere and she didn't know why she was connected. Well, I think that's what it is. But the other thing he said, and maybe we've talked about this before, but it's touched me so much, I just keep thinking about it. He said, the crown is not for us to pay attention to. It's not for us to feel like we're some big thing. That's for other people. But we are given the hand of God and say, God, what do you want me to do? And Stephanie Richter, who's one of our coaches who will be at our retreat, says always get up in the morning and be quiet and say, God, what do you want me to let go of today? What do you want me to focus on today? So I think guilt is something we're all tend toward that, but we can let it go quickly if we realize that God has a plan for us and we don't have to be worried.
That's right. I love that. And it's, as we've talked about, fall reminds us that productivity has seasons too. And I love this. We can't bloom all year. We're not meant to bloom all year.
My rose garden is just now, I picked like 2 or 3. I went to a baby shower on Sunday and I picked the one gorgeous rose that was there. I said, I think that's the last rose for my garden this year.
Wow. See, that's perfect. So it's the perfect time to prune, not necessarily plant at this point. So, so think about this, guys, wherever you're listening from, if you're on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, go ahead and post in the comments, what needs to rest, pause, or reset in your life or business before winter? Because we're in fall right now. We're not in winter yet. So what needs to rest, pause, or reset in your life or business before winter? And if we look at our SOAR framework for this, we can go through. SOAR means systemize and organize with action and reference. So systemize what's working. Don't necessarily start something new right now. Now, of course, I'm not saying don't do that. You can do what you want, but assess what's already working in your life and in your business. Systemize what's working. Don't necessarily reinvent unless you're already in the process of doing that. Doesn't mean you need to stop. Organize what's gotten messy. This is such a great time of year to take a pause and say, okay, let me regroup, refresh, revitalize, right? So organize what's gotten messy, regroup, and take action, but only on what truly moves you forward. Okay, take action, but only on what truly moves you forward. And then file or release reference. Everything that can wait until next season. So if your plate is feeling really full right now, look at it, look at your plate, look at your inbox, look at your to-do list, and see if there's anything in there that doesn't need to happen in the next 2 months. Is there something that could wait until the first quarter, not necessarily January, but in the first quarter of 2026? So you don't have to try to cram everything in, like look and see what could be put off until the next season. And Barbara, you often talk about giving yourself grace in different seasons of life. So how do you personally honor those cycles while staying productive?
That's one of the questions. I don't really know that I can answer it. I don't know. I am such a fluid person. And I just try to honor where I am at the moment. And I suppose that there are different seasons, but I can't really think about how it isn't intentional. I guess I should say that there's nothing intentional about the way that I do seasons. I do constantly ask myself the question, which probably people get tired of hearing me say it, but I think it's critical, which is, and maybe it's because I'm growing older, is if I left this earth tonight, what regret would I have? And I always want to be working on that aspect of my life because I don't want any regrets. As I watch my friends die and people it's like, okay, I just don't want any regrets. I want to make sure that I've done the best I can. And that means being intentional. And that goes back to that word that we love so much.
That's right. That's right. So guys, I'm going to briefly go through some simple ways to slow down and refocus in this season. Okay. So one idea is to choose one unfinished project to complete rather than trying to work on 3 or 4 or 5 projects at the same time and not finishing any of them. Choose one. So choose one unfinished project to complete, not 5. Because completion fuels clarity. Okay, so that's one idea. Review, if you're a SOAR member, review your SOAR board, and anybody else, review your planner. What still matters? What's just noise? Be really clear about what still matters on your list of things to do and what's just noise that can wait or be deleted completely. You can create a November theme. We're moving into November. Create a November theme like simplify, finish, or restore. It gives you something to be really intentional about. This is a big one. Build pauses into your day. Reflection, prayer, quiet walks, naps. Build pauses into your day. That'll help you slow down, Barbara. That'll help you with your slow down goal. Yep. Refresh your environment. Clear one surface. If you've got quotes up, change your quotes. Change to a new, fresh quote. Add a candle or fall color. I am all about fall right now. I'm wearing my brown shirt, my orange handmade scarf that Barbara gave me for my birthday, and I've got my orange cup. So I love the change of seasons, and wear something different. Add a fall color. Add a candle. And slowing down does not mean stopping. It means aligning your pace with your purpose. And Barbara, you've already talked about this. I was going to ask you what's one practical thing you do when you realize you're rushing. And you already said that you just kind of
breathe.
Yeah, just breathe. And you'll regain perspective. And so as we wrap up, just think about, these are things that you can think about. So the trees don't fight the season. They trust it. The trees don't fight the season. They trust it. So this fall, maybe the most productive thing you can do is pause, reflect, and release. So as you finish listening to this video, if you're listening to this in another year and it's spring, it still applies. Okay. So take 10 minutes today to slow down, breathe, and identify one thing to let fall away. Okay. Be gentle with yourself. Slowing down today brings strength for tomorrow. So I just want to share that if you are new to us, new to our channel, please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with somebody else. And we thank all of you that were here live and everybody that watches the replay later. We appreciate you. And we would enjoy and appreciate your comments. So please make sure you subscribe to this channel. If you're new to our community, be sure to go to lesscluttermorelife.com. And that's how you can enter our world. So check it out there. There's a video there for you, a training video on what we teach related to clutter, organization, and productivity. Less Clutter, More Life, which is the name of one of Barbara's books. It's called Less Clutter, More Life. Because that's truly what we're all about. So Barbara, do you have a closing thought for us today?
I told you I had a surprise.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Have you seen this before?
I think I haven't. I've not seen that before, but I have an idea of what that is, but I'm not
sure.
Well,
this came from my husband. My husband was a trainer for many years.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that they used to do was, when we're talking about change in behaviors, there are things that you should stop. I guess you can't really see it.
Yeah, we
but
can.
I'll do it. There are things that you should stop doing, things you are doing that aren't working well, things that you can continue doing, they are working, and then new things that you want to start. So if you've got a big, long to-do list, one thing you can do is go down and color code them that way and begin to take them down. So this is something I creatively acquired from my husband, and it's a good reminder.
I love it. Stop doing, slow down doing, and then start doing. I love that. Yeah. I've heard the concept. I just had never seen that jar, I don't think. No. I don't know. But anyway, thank you all for joining us. We love this conversation today, and we will see you on the next PEPTalk Productive Environment podcast. Have an awesome day.